You are listening to Fantha Tracks.
Fast ship. Never heard of the William Paul?
Never should I have.
It's the ship that made the Kessel run in less than 12 parsecs.
What a piece of junk!
Covering Star Wars vehicles in less than 12 parsecs, this is Start Your Engines.
Don't get technical with me.
Here are your hosts, Paul Naylor and Mark Newbold.
You're listening to Start Your Engines. I'm your co-host Mark Newbold, and joining me today it's the dude to my left. It's Paul Naylor. Paul, how you doing?
What am I on the left for? I should be on the right. I'm very good, mate. Very good. Nice to see you again.
It's been a while.
It has been a while.
We are going to talk about the Halcyon. It's better known as a Galactic Star Cruiser.
I love the design of it. So sleek.
It's got the blockade runner about it.
It has,
got that
yes.
feel.
Yeah, it's almost like a blockade runner's had an affair with a Star Destroyer, and that's the offspring.
It's in the news, obviously, because Galactic Star Cruiser has finished.
Yes.
I think it'll come back at some point in the
I
future.
think it'll come back in some form or other.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Manufacturer.
Corellian Engineering Corporation vehicle. A lot of ships in Star Wars are built on Corellia.
They seem to be, don't they?
They do.
every time we get a new show now, oh yeah, it's built on Corellia.
Yeah,
It's great.
The Falcon's built there, the Ghost is built there. There's all sorts of stuff built on Corellia, but it's built in the shipyards there. It was built in the Santh shipyards in Coronet City on Corellia. So my head tells me that's probably the location we saw in Ahsoka.
Yes.
And, of course, we know Han Solo's father worked on the ship line.
Right.
So, he wouldn't have been involved in this because this thing was built best part of 300 years ago.
Yeah.
The whole point of the Cruiser and the Halcyon is that it's on its 275th anniversary cruise. So it's an old girl, but it's beautiful.
Model and class.
It's an MPO-1400. It's a Purgill-class Star Cruiser. So when Galactic Star Cruiser was announced and all of that stuff was revealed, and then they started to get into the nuts and bolts and start talking about the ship itself and the actual in-universe reality of what that vessel and experience is, what did you think? You say, obviously, it's got that blockade runner look, but what did you make of it, the opulence and the design?
I mean, from the outset, it did look like, if you sort of related it in real terms to what we're familiar with on planet Earth, it was clearly aimed at your sort of 4-star, 5-star hotel market. It wasn't a B&B in Blackpool, was it?
No offence to Blackpool, of course.
None intended. But yeah, it was clearly going to be marketed as being an experience that you weren't going to forget. It was very Art Deco, I thought. It was almost like somebody had put the Chrysler building and...
weirdly, that's a brilliant analogy.
Yeah.
That really is a brilliant
very
analogy.
Coruscant.
Yeah.
Because that's very Art Deco as well,
Yeah.
I think, Coruscant.
Technical specifications.
300 metres long, so it's a long ship with 13 engine units.
Hyperdrive rating.
Hyperdrive rating, of course, because it's on that trip around the galaxy, and it's equipped with shields.
Weapons specs.
12 turbo laser cannons, all forward mounted. She can look after herself, not a battleship. She's fast, but not the fastest. Star Tours always was the thing, wasn't it? With the shuttle that took you around in Star Tours. This is another level up because it is a luxury Star
I didn't
Cruiser.
realise it was weaponised, to be honest. I thought it was purely some sort of cruiser without any guns and stuff.
It has docking bays. It has hangar, a large hangar, which is where the vehicle docks, obviously, when passengers disembark and board on board the Halcyon.
Crew complement.
It can carry between 100 and 500 passengers.
When you went on there, you're in Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah.
So you're on Batuu.
Yeah.
And there's clearly an entrance point to get onto the Shangri-La.
Well, it's weird because when you get into...
The Halcyon, rather.
Yeah. When you get to the real world... Florida-based Earth building.
Yes.
Outside, it's just a box. It really is just a box with Galactic Star Cruiser written on it and the logo of the Halcyon and nothing else. You don't see the word Star Wars
anywhere.
anywhere.
Photos we've seen of people stood outside there.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the sort of the entrance, the main entrance. But just driving up, it looks like nothing. So when you get to that, you sort of go through security as you would getting aboard a real ship,
Yeah.
But you're still on Earth. You're still very clearly in Florida. And obviously people are getting excited.
You mean
Batuu?
Batuu? Yes.
Batuu, exactly. And then you walk through and you get to an area, like a holding area, when they do like an instructional video, and it's Mark Daniel who does our Fantha intros. Then you walk onto the shuttle, and the shuttle takes you from that point to the ship.
Right.
And as you're looking through the windows on the shuttle, which doesn't move, you're physically stationary.
Okay, so you join the ship from a shuttle rather than I got you.
And you're looking through the windows and see, there's
Starfield.
droids coming out with engines almost and jets and stuff to sort of steer you in.
Yeah.
It's very clever.
Yeah.
And then the doors open from the shuttle, and there you are.
Is there motion involved? Do you feel like you're actually taking off?
Not on that one.
No.
You mentioned Batu.
Yeah.
There is an excursion down to Batu as part of the tour when you're over the planet, and that is a physical vehicle that you're travelling from the Star Cruiser building across to Galaxy's Edge, and they are very close. They're probably a 2-minute drive away.
Yeah.
But you never exit the reality of the world, so you're on board the ship. Then you board, you go through a boarding area, and then you board the vehicle, which looks like you're getting on a shuttle.
Yeah.
Of course, in real life, you're getting on a van, essentially, which is what has been mocked by people before, because you are literally getting on a van, and then that travels you. But when you're inside, you've got all the sounds and the screens and this pilots talking to you, so you feel like you're on a shuttle.
Are there any windows where you can see out?
Not on that one. No. One of the reasons I think they don't put screens on that one is if for any reason you had a flat tyre or another car pulled in front of you and braked and didn't move, or it's all to do with timing. So I think, because when you're inside the Halcyon, you don't see the outside world. Every window, and I'm waggling the air quotes, every window is a screen. So you're looking outside in space. When you're in the atrium, which is the main area, if you're walking in from the lift or the doors, the opening from the shuttle, if you look to your left, there's the bridge. If you look to your right, that's looking down the ship all the way down, if you like. You walk off the atrium, and then you're into corridors, and there's all the other levels.
Is it huge? Does it feel big inside?
Oh, yeah. It's clever because, as we just said, it's 300 metres long.
Yeah.
And I'd love to know, but I would imagine that they've scaled it so that from the very front of the bridge, where you do bridge training, all the way down to the back of the corridor where the rooms are, if you added on the length of the engines, I would say that's 300 metres.
So it's full scale.
Yeah, it really does feel like that. It may be a little bit less, but certainly I think if you walked from one end all the way to the other, you'd certainly be walking a couple of 100 metres.
Yeah.
It feels to me anyway.
Yeah, and I've seen photos of you where, and it's shown from the back of you looking out of the windows, and you can see space.
Yeah.
And even though you can't see your face, you can tell that you're going, wow. You don't need to see the features on your face to know that you're absolutely immersed and loving it. It's ironic.
The best photograph that's ever been taken of me is the back of my head. That has been pointed out more than once.
Well, unless it's a really long fringe. When you're looking out the window, does it feel like you are looking out?
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't feel like there's a black piece of plastic with white dots on.
I was worried about that. Yeah, I was worried about that. I wondered how they would do the screen.
There's some depth of perception to it and everything. Yeah.
Big time. Because obviously, in again, air quotes, in reality, a window of a starship would be fairly thick. It wouldn't be thin or anything. So you do get the sense that there's thick glass between you and the outside world. Yeah. But yeah, when you're over, in fact, there's that one shot where we're looking out at Bespin, and you don't go into the clouds or anything. You're over Bespin for a certain period of time, and then we all go back to the bridge and we jump to hyperspace and go to the next place. Yeah. And the hyperspace jumps, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know whether for sizable chunks of the trip you would be in hyperspace, but you're not. Yeah. And again, it's an old argument of mine. I think they've shrunk the galaxy way too much. So it felt like you were going from, half the galaxy to the next in minutes. Yeah. And, you're probably not in hyperspace for much longer than a minute.
We've got 2 galaxies now. Don't worry about it.
Well, that's very true. Yeah, and even that didn't seem to take that long, did it? It's beautifully done, the way it's done. So when you are on the bridge, and there's lots of times when you just wander onto the bridge, and we were the only people on the bridge. A couple of times I just ambled on my own and just had a look around and looking at the star maps and seeing where we are and... Yeah. Figuring out, where in the galaxy we were.
Do you get like a light going, you are here?
Essentially, yeah. You do know when you're at certain locations. Yeah. Not quite like that. But at certain locations, you know when you're there. So in that sense, that immersive sense, and that's the word I would say is probably the most apt immersive.
Hi, this is Andy Seacombe, otherwise known as Watto, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
When people are on there, some people are wearing costume. Some people really went to town with their costume. Yeah. I wore black jeans, I wore my Han Solo jacket, I bought a black shirt that was kind of pirate shirty, and I had my bright yellow shoes on because my character Jan, who's a character I've written about in fanfic for like 40 plus years, he's very flamboyant in what he wears. I mean, this whole trip came together very late. It did. So I didn't have time to get a costume made. Some people have got some phenomenal costumes. Friends of mine who've gone since have got amazing costumes. I didn't have time to do that. And I'm not a costumer. I couldn't do it justice.
It's nice to see that Luminous Yellow trainers are now canon.
Thank you. Thank you. So glad you picked up on that. Like, everybody picked up on that. Just enough for me. Martin had been before. Yeah. So Martin kind of had an outfit already. So he was sorted and he looked great as well. So it all worked out really well. But yeah, when you're in there, I know people try and catch out the staff. What? And the staff rotate. It's funny when you're there for the 2.5 days, one day you'll see a guy in the Chandula collection, which is the shop.
Yeah.
Then the next day is at the dock for when you go down to Batu. So they move the staff around, so they're all very well trained, and they're in character. They're not stepping out of character, which I really appreciated that. And after a while, you wouldn't want to catch them out anyway, because you've got missions to do, you've got things to do, you've got a data pad with information that's sort of steering you towards what kind of journey you want to have or what sort of character you want to be.
Yeah.
Yes, no, or maybe sort of answers, and they work it out. And then you're interacting with the characters, and they're sort of, this guy's really into it, or this guy's not so into it. So you don't have to. You can literally go and sit in the bar and just watch it happen if you want, or be really, really involved. It's totally up to you.
I think because it was like chance of a lifetime, you just want to do as much as you can.
Comm systems.
It's got a comms tower, so it has a communication system, so it can keep in touch, obviously, with the outside galaxy, and an autopilot system. So you do get the sense that Captain Keevan, who's obviously the boss of the ship, and you do see her on the bridge a few times. There's a few moments where we're all together on the bridge.
Yeah.
She's very much in charge, but this ship is not completely automated, but it's not the captain of the Titanic all the time. Exactly, it's not the captain of the Titanic standing at that big wheel or anything like that. There's none of that. So it does have very good automated systems. And also, you mentioned the Art Deco, and I think that Chrysler building analogy is brilliant. I'm going to keep that in my mind because that's absolutely spot on. It really is like that. The vehicle is best part of 300 years old, and of course in the Star Wars galaxy there are vehicles that have been around for a long time.
We sometimes forget how old certain things are. I mean, look at Hu Yang. I mean,
25,000 years old. Yeah, and still working.
Still 75% original
parts. That's right. Very, very true. Going into the ship, it's broken down into decks. So to give a bit of a breakdown, deck 1 is the hangar bay. There's the engine systems. There's a carbon freezing chamber. We don't see that, sadly.
Aww.
I was hoping to find Darth Elvis in there. I really wanted to. I wanted to thaw out Elvis and bring him back.
He'll be back.
He will be back. I'm pretty sure he'll be back. On deck 2, there's escape pods, there's trash compactors, and there's creature holding bays. So I think a lot of vehicles like this have areas for that. I guess some passengers are transporting their creatures. It's not a smuggling ship, it's not a transport ship, but there's areas for things like that. Trash compactors would have been fun. That would have been a fun thing to do.
Yes, that would have been good.
You get to deck 3, there's a lower airlock, there's droid maintenance, and there's crew offices. So you probably see, I would guess you probably see 20 crew, I would say.
Yeah.
In the universe, there's other people in the kitchens that you don't see.
Yeah, but you use your imagination because you see enough of it to be able to relate to the other things that they say that are there, even though you don't see it, like the carbon freezing chamber. Yeah. Because you've seen enough of it, you can imagine where that is and how it's operating and what's going on. So.
That's it. I mean, you start off at Chandrilla, you go over Coruscant, you travel round, you end up down at Bespin and then across to Batu, and you do travel around a bit and then back home from Batu.
I'm so glad they included Bespin.
Oh, yeah. That's gorgeous to see. Yeah, it was a good nod. I think you would imagine, even though we did the excursion to Batu, because obviously in real world, Galaxy's Edge is right there, and of course you're going to do that, and it's very clever how they do it, that at the other stops, certain passengers are going to have gone down to them in universe that are going to go and travel to them. So it's not just Batu that you stop at, even though in reality it is. Yeah. So it's very cleverly done. Deck 4, you get to the passenger cabins. So when you walk off the atrium, you go downstairs, you'll go down a lift and go to the different levels. And there's quite a few options for different levels that you can go to. And you see these passenger cabins, and they do just like in Star Wars when they're in the cell block.
Yes.
And you look down, it's just fading into infinity. And it's got that kind of feel about it, the way it's designed. Yeah. The rooms are fantastic, totally in universe. So you go into your room, and there's a big bathroom, a shower for 2. Hey-ho. And screens all through the room. One of the droids who's there on the ship is kind of giving you all information. There's your big screen which shows you the outside world, which you can close the shutters if you want, which are like digital shutters, but it's quite cute. Yeah. And double bed and bunk beds, which are very comfortable. So it's the rooms are great, but it's not about the rooms. And that's one of the things. It's been marketed as the Star Wars hotel.
Yeah.
It's no more a hotel than sleeping in your car.
It's a shame, isn't it, that it's been marketed the way. Who knows? It may have carried on.
When you're in there and you're doing it and you're interacting with the characters that you're speaking to, they've got headsets on. So clearly there's a control room where somebody is, like when costumers go out and they've got a spotter.
Be like a director.
Yeah. It's like somebody sort of saying, right, now you need to be down in engineering in 5 minutes, or you need to be on the intercom to make a message or whatever.
Yeah.
And your data pad's constantly going because every single person is on the data pad and everyone's interacting with the characters.
do these characters, because they've got these data passes, they come up to you as though they know who you are.
There's that definitely that feel about it, and you know, when you go to certain places and watch certain things happen and be involved, and say being as involved or not as you want. And there were people. We met one lady who was on her 7th cruise.
Yeah.
Who'd heard it was closing and just got in as many as she could. We had
7th cruise.
7th cruise. We had 2 ladies who'd done the previous cruise. One had gone back to the airport, got a message saying we've had a late cancellation. She turned around from the airport, moved her flight back to the Tuesday, and went back to the Halcyon and did the next cruise. So she did 2 in a row. And was just as buzzed when she came to the end of the second one as she was the first time. So there's, you know...
Because although I think when it first launched, people were saying, well, can I go for more than 2 days? And they said, well, you can, but you'll have the same thing. But it doesn't mean you'll have the same experience, because there's so much to do, and you could become a different member.
Yeah.
You could be a spy. There's a number of different roles that you can take
loads.
on.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like going on Star Tours, where there's all sorts of combinations.
Do you know what planet you're going to get?
Yeah.
And that's a really good analogy.
Yeah.
It's very much like that, because, as I say, Martin, who was with me, he did it as a Jedi. He did it as a smuggler the first time, and then the second time he did it as a Jedi. When we finished, I said, how was that? And he went, completely different.
Yeah.
He did it with his family the first time. It was just me and him this time. Yeah. There was different actors playing the roles, because obviously it's not the same actors playing it all the time. No. So he had a different Wraith Cole, whose Gaia is the singer. She's the purple Twi'lek that everybody saw in the marketing. Yeah. Again, horrible marketing. Horrible. That is so integral to the whole thing. Yeah. In isolation, it looks daft as anything.
And cheesy. Yeah.
When you're in there and she's singing and you're listening to the lyrics and you know why she's there, because there's a whole point to her being there. She's basically the Beyonce of the galaxy.
Right.
This character sells out planets.
Yeah.
And she's on this Star Cruiser that holds like 500 people.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, it's like Coldplay turning up at your local pub.
It's like having Kylie having residency in Vegas, that kind of idea.
Yeah. Why is she here? Yeah. She's too... It's Gaia. Everybody knows Gaia. Yeah. Even Lieutenant Croy, who's the First Order guy who's kind of causing all the issues, he's a Gaia fan, genuine Gaia fan. We were in the corridor and he came along and sort of bumped into this secret meeting that we were having. Yeah. It was about 10 of us, 15 of us. And Wraith, who's her manager, who's helping make this scenario happen, says to Croy, "You're a Gaia fan. Give us a verse of Gaia." And he's like, "Oh, I couldn't possibly do that. The poverty of love." And he starts singing. It's just like, oh, this is the cool. But if you said that in isolation and not been there, you'd go, really? But you do get into it. It's theatre. It's pantomime in places. Don't get me wrong. It's comedic in places.
Yes, yeah.
And then it kind of turns. So it's really, really well done. On deck 4 also, there's a dining room, which is the Crown of Corellia, which is the beautiful big room, which is where Gaia performs.
And is that where you ate?
Yeah. And the food, I've got to say, the food was mega.
Talk to us a bit about the food, because I mean, I can remember seeing images and videos when it first opened, and I thought the food looked out of this world, shall we say.
Well said. It really is. I mean, you have
like Michelin star sort of quality.
Oh, yeah. I mean, put it this way, loads of different things, lots of beautiful desserts and fantastic starters. Lots of veg, which was not good for Martin because he doesn't eat green stuff. I do. We had on the second night, which was the night where the action kind of spilled over into the Crown of Corellia, where Gaia's performing and Croy comes in, and there's this whole big exchange where Captain Keevan comes out and makes a stand against the First Order. Again, very involved with the story. It was like a galactic platter, if you like. So he had 5 courses, and each meal was from a different planet. Yeah. The main course was, from memory, from Tatooine, it was like bantha steaks.
Nice.
But it was like filet mignon. Yeah. It was about 1.5 inches deep, probably the size of the palm of your hand. Yeah. And you know when a good steak melts in your mouth? Yeah. It was one of them. And I'm supposed to be paying attention to what's going on, because literally Croy stood off the back of my shoulder. There's a picture of me. You can just see my head sticking out from the side of him. It looks I look like a conjoined baby.
Quato.
And I was so into this steak, I almost didn't pay enough attention. But there's things like this happening all the time, and there's stuff happening around you all the time. But the food, like you say, you go down for breakfast or buffet, rather. It's a buffet, like a lunch buffet, which would run for a few hours. There's like waffles in the morning, and it's all Star Wars'd up, and they did a parfait, which was ever so nice, in like, little milk bottles you used to get as kids. It's kind of done in a milk bottle. They put a bit of blue dye in the yogurt, so it's like natural yogurt. Yeah. All the seeds in there, those little green seeds that look like they've come straight off a pine tree, that are really tasty. That's all worked in there, and just things like that. It's just so well thought out.
I think you had blue milk and green milk on tap.
Blue milk and green milk on tap, and there was water dispensers. I know it sounds silly, but water, original water. The water dispensers on the ship as well. So you constantly, because it's Florida, you really are in Florida, and it's air conditioned, so that can dry you out. So there's water dispensers around, which was good. That sounds daft, but just the little touches that they did.
Pretty much like when you're going through Galaxy's Edge. We've done the bins of Batuu.
That's right.
Everything, even the bins, everything is made to look like it's in Galaxy. You're never pulled out of it.
For everything in one location, daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video and social media feeds, bookmark FanthaTracks.com for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
Turns out that the family that built the ship, or family that ran the ship, ran Zellans, like Babu Frick.
Yeah.
As you're walking down the corridor, going down the stairs, there's a little doorway on the sort of near the skirting board, and it is literally like a doorway like that, and it looks like the big doorways we've got, but to the scale that Babu Frick would walk through. And I walked past it half a dozen times, and eventually Martin went, "You've not spotted it, have you?" "Spotted what?" And he just sort of pointed in the direction. I looked, and I was like, "Oh my God." And there it is. Dining room, engineering room. So you go down to the engineering room, there's tasks to do. It's very much like a tasks room, and you have to work in concert with all the other people to make these things work. That's where Chewie comes on board.
Right.
We can't refer to him as Chewie. He's not supposed to be there. He's hiding from the First Order. So our group called him Dave. Chewbacca was, "Have you seen Dave?" We had a terrible moment. My most embarrassing moment on the whole thing at the end of the first day, where our tour director walks around and she's speaking to everybody, and she caught my eye. She's a very lovely lady, and she caught my eye, and I thought she's going to come over and ask me a question. So she's going, what was the best thing you've done here? "Oh, it's the camaraderie and hope for fighting in the galaxy." "What is your best thing?" "Oh, it was this." And everybody said something really relevant. Comes to me, "And what's the best moment you've had?" And I said, "Calling Chewbacca Dave and hiding him from the First Order." And I completely forgot myself. And like the First Order guys are on the gantry, and she just looks at me like, "Shut up," Oh, what a muppet. I wasn't going to share that, but I feel like it's a sharing moment. So,
whoops.
Yeah, big time whoops. And Martin was like, "Forget it, Mark. Don't worry about it. You've not ruined it. You're fine. Don't worry about it." There's the cargo hold, which you go into. It's not a big cargo hold. It's like the entry to a wider cargo hold. But in there, there's clues and things that you're looking for. You're always scanning stuff with your app. So you can scan boxes, get clues, and it's very interactive in that sense. Puzzles, lots of puzzles. There's a lightsaber training pod. That is amazing.
Yeah.
On board, there are the Saja. These are people who train you in the skills of the Force. And they know all the 7 forms and all the stuff that we've kind of... we've read over the years, but maybe don't know in any great detail. Yeah. You go into that for your lightsaber training session. You go in, you're going to do certain moves and certain things. I didn't expect it to be so emotional, because obviously I want to go in, I want to enjoy it, and I want to take everything I can from it, invest in it, because why would you go and do it if you're just going to stand there sniffing at it? So you're investing it. But I didn't expect to do this thing where at the end of it I was like, wow, I didn't expect to feel quite so...
It's weird, isn't it? I mean, I've had a number of things happen to me throughout my journey with Star Wars, going to different events, and something will catch you out, and it is weird, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. And this was one of them. I felt,
can't even explain why.
No, and I felt kind of not self-aware. That's the wrong phrase. That sounds like I'm not enjoying it. I was kind of aware where I was.
Conscious of it.
I was conscious of it, and you do certain things, and then you do a move, and the Saja would come by and he'd go, "That was really good," like just subtly, like tap you on the shoulder. "That was really good." Oh, and you kind of feel like, "Oh, okay, that was cool." Because there's a scene that you're training, so you're blocking blaster bolts, and you follow the form that he shows, and then when you get to the last one, he's like, "Right, you develop your own style, so you block it how you want to block it." So you sort of left, right, up, down sort of thing. And by the end, my knees don't move so good anymore. So instead of sort of crouching down like you're supposed to, I'm thinking my knees ain't going to do that. So I'm just batting low, I'm like a cricketer, like low left, low right. Yeah. Blocked everything. So I did well. I know I did well. And then at the end, Yoda appears. You hear his voice and you see all these lights and stuff. Yeah, it was very, very cool. Very cool. So I didn't expect that to be as good as it was. There's a climate simulator. Yeah. This made me smile. Because in the story, on the Halcyon, there's a room that can mimic climates of different worlds. In universe, I guess, if you went in and went Hoth, you'd walk out and it'd be snow. Yeah. Or Felucia, you walk out, it'd be jungle. This one was set to Batuu. So you're walking out into the Florida sunshine. It's literally an open room within the building, and you're walking out into the blazing hot sun of Florida. But it's set to Batuu because you're going to Batuu, and I thought that was brilliant. And there's like Jedi Force training, so they've got stones set up, and certain people will go in there and use the Force and knock the stones over. Yeah. You could scan things in there as well on different screens to get information. Yeah. But a lot of sort of meetings happened in there. You could catch up with people in there and have meetings with people. So that was a cool room. And like I say, even though you're on board the Halcyon for all that time, you're not going out into the open world unless you go down to Batuu, which of course you do for a while. You wouldn't really see the sun or really be outside for 2.5 days.
That's why you got bad knees. You got rickets.
Well, yeah, tell me about it. But with this, thanks for that. But with this, you go outside and you're getting a bit of vitamin D, which is nice. And there's also the transport dock as well, which is where you disembark to go down to Batuu.
Yes.
So Deck 5 is more passenger cabins. There are lots of cabins and they're beautiful. Deck 6 is the atrium, which is the main area the main sort of concourse where you see stuff. There's a mezzanine level as well. There's the lounge. There's the bridge, which is fantastic. You do bridge training, so you go to different stations and do stuff. Yep. So there's weapons, there's scanners. But they do it so that, because it is kind of puzzle-based and identifying things on a screen and trying to match them up as quick as you can, or when you're on shields, it's a huge circular table, and it's basically like, when you used to play Space Invaders?
Yes.
When you're trying to block off the shots. Yeah. It's a bit like that when asteroids or blasters are coming in, and you're moving your cursor, your dial around to block it. Yeah. And when you're at the front of the bridge, you're collecting cargo. Yeah. So you have to work with your partner. Martin, for example, would be kind of going up and down, and I'd be going left and right and grabbing the parcels and stuff, or the crates. Yeah. So that was very clever. We did our bridge training near the end, and as we'd finished bridge training, the First Order decided to take over the ship, and it's all hands on deck, and the captain comes in, and it all goes off. So that was fantastic. There's the Chandrilla collection, which is the shop.
Yes.
So one notable thing about that is that you go in there and nothing has the word Star Wars on it. Everything is essentially in universe, as much as it can. I mean, of course, it's got to have certain Earth-based details because it's a purchasable thing. One thing I really liked was there were a set of pins that you had to go to the lady or fella at the front of the desk and say, they'd look around left and right and go, okay, come with me. And they'd take you to the centre of the room. There's a big sort of area in the middle of the room with like a display area, like a star with different display bits off it. Yeah. And this chap crouched down, he's looking around, going, keep look out. Can't have the First Order known about this. Yeah. He crouches down and he pulls out 5 of the pins. Yeah. You move the pins and they've all got Resistance logo on them. Yeah. So there was things like that. But you could buy costumes in there. You could buy, there was a snap fix version of the Halcyon, which I now really wish I'd bought. There's the launch pod dock. There's the service desk as well. Of course, in the universe, it's the crew are there to help you with anything you need. In reality, you're on your data pad a lot. And the second day, for whatever reason, my phone didn't charge. So I went on board with like 50%. I'm thinking, this ain't good. This ain't good. I'm going to need more battery than that. So they had battery chargers. So they just give you a little battery charger and you just walk around with it plugged in and it would charge your phone up. So
good.
Even things like that. And of course, they could help you with other stuff.
They've anticipated that sort of problem. That's good.
Totally, totally. Deck 7 is passenger cabins. Deck 8, it's the atrium mezzanine level. So when you're in there, we're on sort of on the floor, if you like.
Yeah.
You'd look up and you'd see, literally, like I say, a mezzanine level, which is where...
That's where you see Rey fighting Kylo.
Exactly that. Yeah. We don't go up there. There's stairs, but you don't go up the stairs. We're not allowed access to that. So there was a whole level that was happening up there, which was, again, very, very clever. There's crew quarters. There's airlock turbo lifts. Yeah. There's the loader cargo bays, and there's the weapon systems. We don't see a lot of that. That's an area that we don't go to. Yeah. And then Deck 9, upper airlock, crew turbo lifts and service access. And then Decks 10 to 13 is the comms deck, the equipment access, and the navigation deck. So there's lots of stuff going on, but to a passenger who essentially we're there just to chill out and have a nice holiday. We just don't want to worry about anything. We just want to have a nice break and just chill. So what we get to see is perfectly enough.
Famous moments.
The ship itself has been around for a long time. So 230 years before the Battle of Yavin, you're in the High Republic era. So the Halcyon assisted in towing the Starlight Beacon through hyperspace to help with the Dalnan evacuation. And they've done a thing whereby, a bit like when Galaxy's Edge opened, they folded Galaxy's Edge into the past. Maz's castle folded into the past. They've done the same thing with the Halcyon. Yeah. It's really nicely done.
Yeah. I think I'm right in saying that in the comics now, there's been a number of issues where the Halcyon is featured. Yeah. Now, if you were to go back to that now and have a look at that, do you see familiar things that you've seen in life?
There's 2 things that stand out to me initially. One, I mentioned the stairs that go up to the mezzanine level. You can't go up the stairs, but you can look at the stairs.
Yeah.
It's obviously for the cast, if you like. But if you look at the stairs, there's 3 lightsaber slashes on the wall. That's where Anakin had a lightsaber battle in one of the issues.
Okay.
If you go into engineering, there's, like boyfriend and girlfriend who carve their name on a tree.
Yeah.
There's essentially that, but it's Han and Leia carve their name into the back of the wall in engineering.
Brilliant.
So there's little things like that in. And again, now I've done it, and I can't do it again because it's not available. But I kind of wish I'd gone back and read Halcyon Legacy again.
Yes.
And really tried to trawl through it for detail.
Yeah.
Things like that, and just made a note because I think there's. I know there's more than that. There's other things.
Well, you'll be able to go back to it now, and you'll have a wry smile on your face, thinking, "Yeah, I've been there. I know what this is all about."
Yeah. There was a skirmish on the Halcyon during the Clone Wars. Republic and Separatist agents were fighting, so Asajj Ventress has a fight with Anakin, and that's where those lightsaber slashes come from on the wall. And there's been numerous other events that have happened on board the ship, but she's a Chandrila Starline vehicle. She's been affiliated with Hutt clans. She's been taken over by the Empire. She's become part of the Imperial Navy, but at her heart, she's part of the Chandrila Starline fleet, so that's where she is. And she's owned initially by an Anzellan family, so that's where that little doorway came from, which I think is just the coolest detail. Absolutely the coolest detail.
This is Susanna Malik from Mandalorian and Boba Fett, and this is Fanta Tracks. Is it Fanta Track? I'm blind, I couldn't read it. Fanta.
I'm still going to use that.
Are you? Then use it. Even like this dumb broad can't speak English.
In universe, it's really nicely nestled into the broader sort of fabric of Star Wars in a way that isn't as sort of in your face as I thought it might be at one time. But actually, when you're on it, forget Earth for 2 days. You're on the Star Cruiser, you're on the Halcyon.
Did you find that?
Yeah, it's weird because we had such a good trip and it wasn't in and out sort of. We had a day in Disney and then we were on the Star Cruiser. We got off the Star Cruiser in the morning and to the airport in the evening and back home. So it really was a flying trip and it all came together very, very late, but very well. But yeah, when you're in there, you're not looking at your phone for other stuff. You're literally just looking at your data pad with information pertinent to what you're doing. And again, I do get it's expensive.
The criticism of
it. I do get it. Not because of anything that happens on the cruise or anything that is done, because I think you can pull anything out in isolation from any episode of a show or any page of a book on its own without any context. It looks stupid. I get that Gaia singing in that lounge with no context doesn't look like the coolest thing in the world. When you listen to the album and then you kind of understand why she's there as a character and what the broader mission is, and then your part in that, then it goes from being that looks crap to this is the most important thing in the world. So when you're in there, you do lose yourself in it.
It's not built at the theme park. It's off-site, is it, somewhere?
Yeah, it is. So when you're in Galaxy's Edge, do you remember when we walked in, you saw the TIE Epsilon, which I think Colin Trevorrow designed, if I'm right. You see that sort of where it is, and there's all the stuff that happens in and around that. The milk stand is just to your right, and to the left is the First Order shop. Next to that is like a big sort of archway that looks like nothing. That's where you walk through from the Halcyon. So it as I say, it's a physical thing that moves you from one building to that area of the park. So you disembark.
So it is on the site.
It is. It's essentially, and it sounds crazy when you say it, it's basically at the side of the staff car park. It's not in with everything else. You're at the back of Galaxy's Edge, so when you're looking sort of out of the building, you can see the spires, all the steel construction that's holding that all up and together. It's so not anything. This building, you could literally drive past it and not know it was there.
Do you think, therefore, that there's potential that they could announce that it becomes something that people can actually just walk into and have a look around?
I think lots of rumours were that they're going to bulldoze it, that it's a tax write-off, that by the 1st of October it won't exist as a building anymore.
Right.
Having been on it, that would be beyond criminal. It's so bespoke for what it is. You couldn't turn it into anything else.
No.
It's hardwired.
But if it became an attraction that more people were able to go onto because, A, it was more affordable, but B, it was more accessible on a day-to-day basis, well, then that would also be cool. So it's got an interesting future one way or the other.
Yeah. I think they've probably just mothballed it. I think they've just thrown a dust sheet over it for now.
To think about what they're going to do.
think about what they're going to do. I think just with the world as it is, with finances as they are, and we're still kind of, the whole world's kind of in a bit of a recession. So I think it just how the dice rolled.
Timing wasn't great, was it?
It wasn't. No. And I say, it's not cheap. That's the stick that it's beat with. And I do get that. Having done it, I do get that. But by the same token, because it was kind of marketed as a hotel, and it is so not a hotel. It's just not a hotel. It's got rooms that you can sleep on because it's supposed to be a spaceship that's travelling around the galaxy, so of course you're going to sleep on it.
Yeah.
But it was marketed as a hotel, and it's not a hotel. It's a live-action experience, and it's bespoke to the point that I mentioned the one lady we spoke to that had done 7 tours, and the 2 ladies that had literally got off and gone back on again. And also just to say, there's this really cool community of people who've done it. Yeah. Loads of Facebook groups, all very open and welcoming, and want to talk about it, want to share their experiences, which is lovely. I really, really do dig that.
Was it what you thought it would be, or did it exceed that?
I went in with as open a mind as I possibly could, being a Star Wars guy and wanting to enjoy it and conscious of the cost and the opportunity, because it doesn't come everyone's way, so I didn't want to just take it for granted. So I did go in, obviously I travelled with Martin, who'd done it before, and he was raving about it, so that gave me confidence, because pretty good barometer for stuff like that. So I went in thinking I know I'm going to have a good time. I didn't quite get how immersive it was going to be and how you really do kind of forget about the real world. And when it finished on the final day, we went back in for like breakfast essentially before you disembark, sat at the captain's table, had a sort of a last meal, and you're looking around at all the other people and everyone's just like, oh. That's it now. Yeah. And you see that when you're in these groups and you see stuff on Facebook when everyone's like, are you having post-Halcyon blues sort of thing? Well, yeah, kind of. So that immersive and that engagement, I didn't really expect that. And so with it closing and knowing that I'm hoping there's a future for it, I really hope there's some kind of future, limited engagements, or maybe just pause it till the time is right. They can relaunch it, maybe with some innovations, because there are people who've done it 7 or 8 times and you want to make it fresh for them. But again, you could do it 7 or 8 times and it would feel like, the ship's not going to change. The journey you go on ain't going to change. Thanks for listening to Start Your Engines. If you want to be a part of the action and stay updated on all the latest Star Wars news, visit fantatracks.com and be sure to comment, like and share on any of our social media feeds at Fantatracks. You can reach out to us and send in your listeners' questions by emailing radio@fantatracks.com. Subscribe, leave a review, preferably a 5-star one, on Amazon Music, Audible, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcatcher or smart speaker of choice. And as always, thanks to James Semple for composing the Fantatracks intro, and our Start Your Engines opening music, Mark Daniel and Vanessa Marshall for our voiceovers, and of course the data miners at Wikipedia. Remember to tune in to Good Morning Tatooine. It's live Sunday evenings at 9 o'clock UK time, 4 PM Eastern and 1 PM Pacific on Facebook, YouTube and Twitch. And check out our Fantatracks Radio Friday night rotation. It's every Friday night at 7 o'clock UK time for new episodes of The Phantom from Down Under, Planet Leia, Desert Planet Discs, Start Your Engines, Collecting Tracks, Cannon Fodder, and special episodes of Making Tracks, and every Tuesday at 7 o'clock UK time for your weekly episode of Making Tracks.
Coming up next on Fantatracks Radio, it's Making Tracks.
It'd be nice to see Dave again, wouldn't it?
It'd be nice to see Dave
or
again.
As he should probably be referred to, Rodney.
Can't argue with that.